Surprise, we're live. I know it's been a while, and that's really on me. Kind of like with Steve and the Weekly Reckoning. Anytime the show would miss, it's kind of on me because of work or whatever the case may be. But we are happy to have you here, folks. The Council of St. Michael has joined again. Trad is off, I think, on a mountain somewhere during Lent. He said he was going to go be on a mountain meditating. So send your prayers to Trad Revival that he has a good Lent and spiritually is renewed. So we'll see him when Lent ends. The rest of the council is here, and we are happy to talk to you. I really feel bad because the show we were going to have, Angel was pumped because we were going to be talking about like bugging in versus snow versus all this other kind of stuff. And then I went, nah, we're not going to talk this week. And he's like, dude, what are you doing? So we are back, and man, we got stuff to talk about. It's just like stuff is flying off the rails. So it is great to see you both, gentlemen. Joey, how are you doing?
Doing good, doing good. Just a lot of challenges in life right now, but nothing we can't handle. And right just at the beginning of the novena to Saint Joseph, so perfect timing for all of that. So blessed be God.
Amen to that. I got to start that after the show myself. Thank you for reminding me. Angel, how you doing, bud?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, you're coming in loud and clear.
All right. Well, focusing on Lent and everything we have to do in between. We haven't been perfect, but doing our best right now.
That's right. That's right. Lent's a challenging time, as it should be. And we're kind of starting that process where the first week we're like, yeah, right, we're gonna make this a good Lent. And then you're in this week and you're like, how many days left? You start counting on the calendar, like, okay, yeah, all right, double down. So, and it's a good time actually. Angel brings up, and you bring it up, Joe. It's a good time to start that novena to really kind of hypercharge, refocus. So, hopefully, your Lent is going well, ladies and gentlemen, as we are renewing and preparing and so forth. And as we are all facing our own individual challenges, we as a union of states are facing our own challenges in many ways. I want to throw this out to you. It's not in the headline because we'll talk about it briefly, but I have two vets here. I want to get your opinions on our conflict with Iran and the start of this. I'm happy that I voted for the peace president. I don't know about you guys. Like I was told if I voted for a certain party that there would be no new wars. I'm glad to see that campaign promise has been broken, like most of the others. But I want to go to Angel and then Joey. Your thoughts on the strikes on Iran, the possibility of boots on the ground, and just your overall thoughts as a vet coming with the back into the sandbox, as some would say.
Yeah, Rick, I'm always trying to play, I guess, devil's advocate here with you guys. I don't always agree with everything 100%. Makes the show a little more interesting, doesn't it?
It does. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
But at heart, we do believe in, across the board on a lot of the same things, and we share the same faith, and we, have our focus on what's important. But, I'm not happy that we're entering another conflict that can last another 20 years, cost trillions of dollars and American lives, and not even looking at the casualties of war that we can see because of this. The innocent Iranian people that are caught in this conflict. Because let's get this clear. Let's make this clear to everyone that's watching, and you guys can, put your 2 cents in if you agree or disagree. Obviously, um, the Iranian people are not the bad guys. It's the extremist Islamist government that's there, that's been making threats and just trying to dictate everything that happens there since they took over in 1979, I believe. Um, Iran was a fairly open society, and they were fairly mainstream in their beliefs, but now they went more of their fundamentalist kind of off the wall extremists, and it's a very complicated scenario. You have the Kurds there, you have ethnic minority groups within Iran. It's not just the Iranian people only. That whole area has been at war for centuries. But you add the element of Israel in there, that I've posted some stuff sometimes that might stir some feathers, but I mean, about Israel, I mean, I'm somewhere in between there. Yeah, Israel, has the right to exist, but to what extent, right? Are we doing this for Israel? Or are we doing this for the world, right? Or for the Iranian people? That's my question. Why are we striking Iran? Or for the oil? Or all of the above? I don't know, but regardless, I'm just not happy with the whole thing. And I'll leave it to Joey, but I'm gonna reboot my thing here because you guys are frozen.
Gotcha, brother. Yeah, so I mean, I'm definitely not a fan. Again, I was like you, Rick. No more new wars, and I was all about that. And really, at the end of the day, Donald Trump is exactly who I initially, in my gut, told me he was when he first came on the stage back in 2016, leading up to the 2016 elections. I was very anti-Donald Trump. Now, don't get me wrong. Some of the other guys were definitely no better than him, but my instincts for him of what he was going to do played out over the last, the two terms that are broken up into two. But I am not a fan of this war. I'm not a fan of, um, if Israel's going to attack them, let them attack them. I don't want nothing to do with this. I don't want my sons or, God forbid, daughters, get drafted into this deal. And they keep saying like, oh, we're not going to put boots on the ground. That's not, it's going to be very contained. It's going to be very strategic. It never plays out that way. Why? Why does it play out that way? Because these are religious fanatics. They are hardcore, and the people that they have are also hardcore. And guess what? The hardcore people are the guys that are serving in the military over there. And you're not going to get those guys to surrender. Like, that's not part of their MO over there. I mean, again, I fought, I helped support the campaigns in Iraq and Afghanistan. These guys don't quit. I mean, they are warriors. I tip my hat to them. As an opponent, I respect them because of that, because they're not going to quit. They're going to keep going, and when they have to, they're going to resort to guerrilla warfare and crazy tactics to try to win. That's just what they do, And hey, at the end of the day, that's they believe in what they believe in. We believe in what we believe in. But the biggest thing that we're seeing right now is the drone attacks. Their little drone attacks are a little more effective than a lot of people are leading them on to be, because a bunch of them are getting shot down, but you are seeing increased accuracy as these guys are getting more familiar. Whoever's controlling these things are getting more familiar with how to fly these things. We're starting to see an increase in successful strikes against Dubai. Airports have been hit twice. They hit in Oman. They hit an oil refinery today and blew up one of the big tanks there. In order to stop that, the only way to stop that is to get boots on the ground. That's the only way you're going to be able to try and contain. Well, I don't even say stop it. It's a decent sized country to contain it, because what Iran is doing right now is actually strategically smart on their part, because they are launching these drones, and what they're doing is they are crippling UAE. The crown prince of the UAE, his whole entire MO was, look, eventually we're going to run out of oil. I want to build a kingdom on tourism, and Dubai is known as the Las Vegas of the Middle East. It's where they go and they cut loose. They get off the plane, and you don't have to wear the hijabs and all the the stuff that they have to wear. And that's what they do. They go there, and I spent a lot of time there. And the first time that I went to Dubai, and I've been there many, many times, it is shocking how many people from Europe vacation there. They go on their holidays there. And so they're going to cripple the economies, because we've already seen it over the weekend. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I think Great Britain or the UK, they have canceled all remaining flights to the Middle East until next year. And so this is kind of what we're sitting at. And we also have the Kurds. They're like, hey, we're taking back our territory. So now they're starting to intrude, and go in and push into Iran. And it's just, this is going to turn into like Fallujah, Iraq 2.0, and this is going to spiral into guerrilla warfare. It's going to get nasty. I don't think it's going to be this short campaign like the president's talking about. I really don't.
I mean, my first question, and thank you both of you for your responses. I think those are well said and well put, and I agree with most of that. First of all, Angel, yeah, whenever we're, whether it's Israel, Iran, it's never the people, it's the governments that we're dealing with. You can disagree. Whenever I say I have disagreements with Israel, it's not with the people of it, it's with the government and the government's genocidal tendencies and what they want to do. Same thing with Iran, because innocent souls are innocent souls. Speaking of innocent souls, the frustration, along with Joey's, when in the bleepity bleep are we ever going to actually get an America First idea? What is America First about any of this? What is America First about launching more campaigns and launching all these other things? I see Lindsey Graham, who is just tickled with himself about this whole thing and this whole mess. But the idea is, Americans, we got cocky after the Venezuela thing and after, the first Iran strike, which a year, we called this when it happens, like, this is not going to be the last time we hit Iran. This is the first time, which means it's going to only continue to increase. And the idea, they want it to be like Iraq, or it's going to be like Iraq. First of all, the topography of Iraq versus Iran, totally different. Iraq is flat. It's a parking lot. Iran is mountainous. It's a lot more like Afghanistan. And for the two gentlemen who actually served and even dealt with that even a little bit, it is not fun to play in the mountains. Secondly, the population of Iraq is 46-ish million. There's 50 million more people in Iran versus Iraq. So you got 91 million people in Iran, in a mountainous country that's well built because of the oil money and everything like that. This is a terrible idea. This is an awful idea. And it's just one of these things where people just pull their hair out because it's avoidable. Iran, people are like, oh, Iran's got all these things and they got these, right? When people were talking about this last year and we bombed them, and they're like, oh, they've been warning about nukes for like 50 years. every 15 years it's like they have nukes, and then something happens. It's like I make the connection to Korea. North Korea, Kim Jong-un, he only fires off missiles when he's getting hungry. He fires off some missiles, we give him some food, and he goes back into his little cave. Like, these things do not need to escalate this way. It's going to cost money. The standard of living is going to go up. We're seeing the rise in gas prices, even here in Texas. One day diesel was like $3.19. Now it's almost $5. And I don't care what Trump says, it's going to hurt the standard of living of people. And people are already on thin ice with their day-to-day things. And so it just comes back to the idea of, when is this ever going to be for us? When is it ever going to be for America First, or just regular people? Why do we have to do it? It's because we're a warlike people. It's because the military industrial complex needs to bomb somebody. And, we couldn't get a war. We couldn't convince Americans to get into war in Ukraine, despite the fact that the powers that be tried to get us jazzed up to go into the battle in Ukraine. And people were just like, nah, we're not doing that. But I guess because Muslims are bad, we have to go into the Middle East, even though the Muslims are over there. The people in Iran, they're in Iran. They have a terrible leadership that we installed, by the way, back in the 70s. And it's just, as you can tell, I'm frustrated, and I didn't even serve. So, I've got a buddy of mine who has his unit. He has friends deployed in one of the cities, and he's sending videos of missile strikes hitting. And it's just like, this is we've had we're almost 10 to 15 casualties already. Unnecessary. Every single American soldier lost in this conflict is an unnecessary loss. And so it angers me to no end. And I have to be like Ron Swanson, like, end of rant, because I'll just keep ranting at this point. Just makes me so angry.
Can I jump in here real quick?
Absolutely, please.
So I'm thinking, and Joy will probably agree with me on this. I'm thinking Afghanistan vacuum here. If you don't have someone there, a large presence like the U.S. to make sure that one of these warring factions, which we're going to learn about real soon, which ones they are, which are fairly unknown within Iran, because, the Kurdish are probably one, but there's other factions within Iran that don't agree with anybody, and they want to take over the government. We found out about all of them, in Iraq, And I'm sure we'll find out which ones they are here in Iran, because I mean, they've been left untouched for a very long time, you know. And we can learn the lessons from when the Soviet Union tried to invade um, Afghanistan and they failed, right? I'm thinking a vacuum of factions, and just like happened in Afghanistan, once we got out, the extremists took over again. So I don't think we're gonna change much. I could be wrong, but how long are we going to be there, and what's the reason for this war? Okay, take the extremist ayatollahs out of power. Well, the next guy's coming up in line, one of his 13 sons and 72 siblings that have the same ideologies and are still holding the keys to all that money. So, I mean, they can keep bombing, but it may not be the solution. You need the complete package there until an army rolls in and and has special operations and all these aspects of warfare that we talk about. There's other countries that are probably gonna back them up. Russia, China, North Korea. They've been waiting for this. They knew this was coming. They got stockpiles of missiles in tunnels in the mountains. That they've been waiting for this for 10, 20, 30 years. Anyways, that's
Well, just
Yeah,
let
and you
me
know what? I'll,
go
I'll
ahead.
jump in here real quick as well. We have been training for this for years and years and years, and I know this from personal experience. So on both of my deployments, both in support of Iraq and Afghanistan, we would actually take breaks. We had 3 carriers over there for sustained operations, plus our allies. And what we would do is every so often we would do what they call a battle station drill, and the battle station drill was always prefaced by there was like a storyline to go along with it to tell us what's happening and why we're doing what we're doing, and it was always centered around Iran. And this is back 2000. This is 2001 to 2003, 2004. We would take these breaks and conduct these battle station scenarios, and it was always against Iran every single time. And my hypothesis on this whole deal is what's the end game with this? Well, I mean, obviously Israel is the one who they said we're bombing, we're going. So of course we're going to get drug into it along with them. But what is this going to do? This is going to ultimately destabilize another Middle Eastern country. It's going to create more extremists. These extremists are going to fan out into Europe and eventually here to the United States. And we're going to have to deal with them at some point in the future. And what does that do to the greater Middle East? It actually weakens it in a way because, one, it's in chaos. And what does that do? That's going to embolden Israel to continue to their operations, because guess what? Now, as the extremists get fanned out across the land, it kind of reduces some of their fighting force a little bit, and I think it allows the Mossad and them to do the things that they're going to do, and it's just going to be a continued domino effect. And I don't really see this deal it's not going to end well for us, and this is going to just end with Israel getting total domination over to the Middle East, and I think that's what they want, and we're going to go along with it.
Yeah, the fact that we're being dog walked by another country into doing their foreign policy, which, I mean, you can't say anything else. You can't say anything else. We're being dog walked by them into all of these things, and it's really upsetting because it just brings me back to all my other points. And you're right, and that actually leads into probably both of our story. Well, our first story that we're going to talk about is directly related to retaliation in these United States to the Iran strikes and how that puts us in danger. And even the second story that we're going to talk about puts us in direct danger because of the desire to strike back and then immigration policies and so forth. So this was just a totally unforced error. It was something that didn't need to happen. Nobody was clamoring for it outside of the neocons. And the fact that the people that told everybody that Trump was a bad presidential candidate pick, in 2016 and 2020 and 2024, Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro, they all love him now. They all think he is the greatest thing on earth. That's all you need to know when it comes to how bad of a situation this is and how
how the tables have turned.
Yeah, they are. All of a sudden Mark Levin is a screaming old man about how this is the greatest thing in the world, and it's just money and lives and disruptions that don't need to happen. It's just, and that's my thing. It just doesn't need to happen. And think about, there's one thing I read this on X, so I don't know how true it is, but it's one of those accounts that said, I waited to tell my son not to enlist until Trump was in office because he's pro-military and he loves our military. And now my son is enlisted and now he's going to Iran and I can't believe this. And it's like, well, it didn't matter who you signed up, you're going to get, no matter who you are, you're getting a war in the Middle East. Doesn't matter, Democrat or Republican. Yep. I really hope, Joey and Angel, I really hope people see with this conflict that it doesn't matter at the federal level who you vote for. One side goes the speed limit, and so it goes a little slower, I guess, with the Republicans. That's the only reason you vote for them. And the other side is complete total extremism. So you take your pick on that. And it just makes me so angry. And it makes me want to throw my hands up, because when I opened up my my X account that Saturday morning, and there's Trump with his little USA hat, be like, we're launching a war. It's like, come on, man, really? The rich send the poor to die in their wars, and it's just so angry. It makes me so angry. And then it leads to stuff like this, Joey, and Angel. Right? This is our first story of the night. Iran may be activating sleeper cells outside the country, alert says. This is not from like the dark web, alexjones.com type of stuff. This is from ABC News, which tells you that this is some high level stuff. One could argue this just means they're pushing fear and all these other kinds of things, but for us, it's something to take into account. U.S. has intercepted encrypted communications to believe they have originated in Iran that served as the quote-unquote operational trigger for sleeper assets outside the country, according to a federal government alert sent to law enforcement agencies. Victor, now, this is after something that happened in Joey and I in our state, the attack in Austin, right, by a guy who had a property of Allah and an Iran shirt on. And so, I mean, we can tie that into this story too, Joey, if you want. But there is so many Iranians here, or just people who identify with the coalition, with the political ideology of the Iranian government. So they don't have to be Iranian to agree with them. They're very tribal, and if they agree with that. So now we're seeing the fact that it's something that we really need to take into consideration. And so, Joey, if you want to talk about your thoughts about the Austin attack and tie it into this.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a few shows ago, and I remember bringing this up, is when the borders were wide open, there was a lot of investigative journalists down there going and sniffing around to see what was going on, and they caught one of the guys. They didn't catch him, but they talked to him while he was crossing the border, and they asked him, what do you plan on doing here? And he turned around and looked at him and goes, "You will soon find out what I am coming here to do." Mm-hmm. We're about to find out what that guy was coming here to do. It wouldn't be surprised if we see this guy's face on the news here at some point. That he could be tied to some sort of extremist organization from over there, and that's what we're going to have to deal with. And that's there's been a lot of chatter. I'm part of a lot of different chat groups with safety people in there, and we're all talking about the increase of our safety postures at our parishes, because it's gonna happen. It's not a matter of if it's gonna happen, it's when it's gonna happen. And that's the thing, people don't understand. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, the great people of Iran. Yeah, there are some great people in Iran. I know a family from Iran that escaped Iran when the Ayatollahs took over the country, or were installed by our government over there, and they fled Iran because they knew what was going to happen. They're a great family. I love them. I grew up. They watched me grow up, and they're great people, but there's also not great people there. There are people that support this extreme ideology, and they're willing to die for it. And it just really baffles me that, especially on the left, but also on the right, because we're going over there and taking kinetic action, it's natural that they're going to respond. This is what they do. And, we are going to see terror attacks here on American soil. And it's like, what? they got activated. Why hasn't nothing happened? Well, yeah, because everybody's posture's up right now. Give it a few weeks or a few months, maybe even a year, and this is something that Sarah Adams talked about. She's a ex-CIA, I know, CIA, ex-CIA, but is this something that she has been harping on for a while now? Like, hey, these people are in our country, they're here in large amounts, and they want to conduct like an Israel style attack, October or whatever day that was back a couple years ago. They want to conduct a massive attack on that sort of scale. And, people are not ready for it. Most people are not ready for it. Our emergency services are certainly not ready for it. And again, we saw this in New York. You saw that they tried to take down communications while they had the big G whatever 8 summit up there. They are prepping, they're probing, and it is coming. It's not a matter of if, it's when. And we saw it here in Austin. And given the large amounts in Dearborn, here in Irving, Texas, and Frisco, where I'm at, Houston, the massive population down there, it's only a matter of time.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Angel?
We've been talking about this for a long time, in the prepping channels. I'm sure you guys see me rant about this stuff like every week. A hack on the electric grid, cell networks, internet providers. I mean, we had blackouts from cell providers a few weeks ago, right? With like Verizon and, we also had, we have outages of, YouTube and Discord, and, we have them happen all the time. Those DDoS attacks happen all the time. And, I've been, we've been as a community talking about this, and that's what's probably going to most likely happen. But, I do partially agree with you, Joey. Their posture would be to carry out an attack like they did on Israel, where they crossed the border and did something of that nature, of a mass casualty event. But they got so many options. We can't let our guard down. And what we're probably going to see is the hacks. That's what's going to come in first. They got the Iranians are some of the best hackers in the world, actually. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but they can do some damage, and we just got to combat them. But we've been talking about this for a long time. Energy, including nuclear sites, possible fallout from a meltdown. Get your key tablets, potassium iodide. Figure out what the closest nuclear reactor is to your home, and what safety precautions you need to take for a radiological emergency. These are all things that you need to have planned now. Like, go online tonight, see what the closest nuclear reactor is, get those potassium iodide tablets, which block the isotopes from causing further damage on the thyroid and things of that nature. So I believe that out of all these, the spectrum of all these different possible scenarios that we've been talking about, we're probably going to see one in the next year, unfortunately.
The one, and I agree, the October 10th or 11th or whatever one in Israel is on everybody's mind, but I've been warning back into the days when I was writing, when I was doing my Homeland Security Masters. The one that scares me the most is the 2008 Mumbai terror attack style, where it was teams of 2. They went into a city and they shut down a city in a matter of hours. Now, the response time will be a little bit different here because they don't have SWAT teams and TAC teams like they do. In India, they had to fly them in from Dubai to Mumbai to actually take any action. So that's why the response time was so low. But if you do it in a city like New York, even though New York's got a very big budget for anti-terror, it's still 6 to 7 million people in that city. Or think about LA, or think about Chicago, or any of these other places. And that's the stuff that can paralyze an entire community. So that scares me. Now, as far as like when Angel talks about that, I already looked at it. I think it's south of Fort Worth and north of me, like the nearest nuclear. So Joey and I, we're both, SOL. So we have to stock up on those types of things. But think about that. We are so addicted to the electrical grid, and the electrical grid is probably the most vulnerable asset out there, because you think about those substations in the middle of nowhere. You think about those lines out, you're driving on the highway. If you're in Texas and you're driving on 10, out to El Paso or something like that, there's miles and miles of line that they're just poles that are unguarded that can be taken down. And that's going to be spots here and there, EMP type deals for I think it was during even during Obama's term, there were hearings about trying to harden the electric grid against an EMP attack. And you know what the conclusion was? We can't. We can't. It's too big. It's too extended. And the amount of money that it would take to try and harden the entire electric grid to an EMP would be astronomical numbers. It's the same reason why cybersecurity isn't a big deal for companies. The reason why they'll give you 2 weeks of free credit and monitoring is because it's cheaper to give you that than actually quote unquote harden a website, because they just can't do it. So that absolutely frightens me. And I really want to make this point clear. And I hope, and I think, Joey and Angel will agree with me. These terror attacks that we're talking about, and I'm labeling them both as terror attacks, despite what nobody else will say. This terrorism that we've seen and will see does show the limits of government protection. And this is a huge deal now, guys, because there's a huge segment of the population, and this happens when Republican presidents are in office. The prepping community puts its hands down. They called it the Trump slump during the first one, because everybody thinks Trump's in charge, he'll protect us, nothing bad will happen, yada yada yada. And then when the Democrat comes in office, prepping community and all these things get spiked up because of that. But the problem is, under Obama and then under Biden, the floodgates were open. The reins were let off of these things. DHS, which was supposed to be to get the bad guys, has been turned on its own population in a lot of ways. And so a lot of people right now that you would maybe say, oh, they would be preppers or preparing, they're not, because they think, well, Kash Patel's at the FBI and Pam Bonnie's running the DOJ, and we got the good guys in office, so we don't need to worry about that. And they're not going to do anything. They're not going to do anything for you because they can't. At the individual level, at the local level. And going back to the Austin attack, you had a lot of people who didn't live in the state chiming in, which happens. I chime in on stuff that happens in other states all the time. But even that, the police response was impeccable, guys. Like, you couldn't get it better. It was less than 2 minutes. They were on the scene and the guy was down. 14 people were still injured. And then 3 people, I think more than 3 people, I haven't checked, lost their lives. And even though within a matter of minutes cops were on the scene, you are on your own. And if you're in a bar in Texas, it's very Texas has a thing called the 51% law, which means they have to make 51% or more of their income from on-consumption alcohol in order to ban firearms. So a lot of places don't. If you're in one of these places, if you decide to go into one of these places and you observe the rule, you got to start carrying IFACs. You got to start carrying. If you haven't. And I'm seeing a bunch of them on Instagram and stuff like that. They have inside the waistband ones now and stuff like that you can throw into your kit. You got to learn to use it. You got to learn to keep it on you at all times, because you may be disarmed, but you can save lives on the back end. And you have to take into the account that the only first responder that you can rely on is you. There's just nobody else. You are going to be, and we've said that on the show over and over again, you are the one who's responsible, especially the men, as the protectors and, the guardians, the healers of your home. And then I'll extrapolate it out to our faith, with this types of ideology moving through here. Our institutions look at what's happening in Mexico, right? Our institutions are going to be targeted one way or another. So we have to step up those things as well. So it absolutely is in the communities that we run into. It's not the fear of it happening. It's the fear of watching it actually, the wheels starting to go in motion for the things that we've been talking about. And people are still kind of like, yeah, it's a they sweep it under the rug. I know Michael in the chat, they'll sweep it under the rug like they did Vegas and all these other kinds of things and try to get everybody to go back to normal, when you should be doubling down your efforts, whether that's, beginning to have a bug out. You're beginning to take an everyday carry bag everywhere that has mags and band-aids and, radios and stuff like that. Cause you could be caught somewhere where that when it happens, and you could be far away from your home.
Rick, I'm proud of you. You've become a hell of a prepper.
I try.
Yeah,
I try.
and one last thing, like you said, Rick, you said this 100 times on the show. Those police officers are not obligated to come and engage the bad guy. Then they're not. They're not. It's a great point that you've made over and over and over again, because some people are just so hardwired into believing that if somebody opens fires in a large area, that the police are going to show up and take care of it. That is not a guarantee, and I'm not willing to bet my life on it.
No, especially with the way that, especially Austin's police department has been decimated by the Black Lives Matter movement and the cop, the police movement, and most major cities, all the good cops have been driven out. They have just been driven out, and they either went to smaller towns or things like that, or they just straight up retired and went into private security because the pay is better. You don't have to worry about it much. But police departments are A, they're not obligated to protect you, and B, they're not going to be the ones, and this is not all LEOs, and if you're watching this in the replay or live, I'm not making this a broad statement, but generally, most of them, and I guess, patriarchy alert, there's a lot more women that have been drafted into police departments. And you can get mad at me if you want. Women are not going to run into a live fire. If there's a terrorist, they're not going. Maybe there's one or two. The lady I work with, she's a badass. Great, maybe she will, but the other 50 out of that probably won't, because a lot of
go on YouTube and look up woman police officer and look at the videos. It speaks for itself.
They're in the minority. That's what we're trying to say. You know?
So, and that's, I mean, you could even extrapolate it to men too. The men that are left are either, they've just been so beaten down that they don't want to get involved with this, either with lawsuits or HR policies or all these other things that they have to worry about, or they're generally like the Portland police align with Antifa up in the Northwest. They protect the protesters there. A lot of them align in that way. So you have to be aware of these things if you go into major cities. That's why when people ask me, because I live about, a little over an hour away, you go to Austin? No, I don't go into Austin unless I absolutely have to. I don't go into cities unless I have to. I go into Killeen because, I work with people there, but even I don't like going in there.
Have you guys ever seen the video by the FBI? How to react to an active shooter?
Is it the run, hide, fight?
Yeah.
I saw it a long time ago. I can't remember exactly how it went, but yeah.
We can show that at some point on the show, but the gist of it is the government is telling you to run, right? Hide and fight, because they're not coming for you until the first responders are not going to come for anyone until the scene is secure, which means the shooter's down, dead, or incapacitated. I mean, basically they're saying, if you're there next to the shooter, you figure it out, because we're not coming in. By the time they amass a SWAT team at the door, it's like hour and a half. And they figure out the plan. It's like, is he done? Is he out of bullets yet? Is he out of rounds? Yeah, we're going in now. That's basically what they're saying. I mean, am I right or wrong?
You're 100% right. And I've talked to when at the range, when I run into LEOs and stuff like that, they say, well, we're under pressure now. If we get a call for a mass casualty event, we're told we got to go in and we have to eliminate the threat. And we're under, it's all because of Uvalde, obviously, and that absolute travesty that took place there. But even under that pressure, they're still not going to go in until they feel that it is ready, that they have the advantage. And how long that is, you don't know. You don't know how long it is that they actually have that advantage. And then secondly, let's say you're in that bar. When they come in, everything's a nail. So you got to be careful about that too, because I've talked to SWAT guys that are say, if you're standing with something in your hand and we're running around the corner, we're just going to pop you down and just move, because we're told that everything's got to get eliminated before the first responders can come in behind us. And that's part of securing the scene. So you have to be because people think, oh, well, if they come in, they're going to know I'm the good guy. They don't know anybody's the good guy. Everybody's the bad guy at that point. So, and Michael makes a great point. How many times in these major cities when one of these happens, you got grandma, who's the police chief, who's, you know, like in New Orleans or these other places, and even Austin. I think Austin has a female police chief, and it's just, you know, that it's just not the mindset you want to be having from the top down as far as doing the job of supposedly protecting and serving.
You know, we can talk about how, you know, can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Yep.
you're coming in loud
You
and clear.
guys, yeah, because it went silent. You know, I did want to mention something about, you know, the kind of mass casualty event that, you know, Hamas did on Israel. If that were to happen on U.S. soil, I mean, it would be us against them. By the time an army is, you know, summoned to fight, and if, you know, if they're going house to house doing that, which very well may be one of the options they have, and they are here and they are armed and they are on all those websites. You can look them up. Extremist groups in the US, they're watching them. But, you know, they have their right to bear arms, you know, and they have all these things, and just like we do, but they just have the wrong idea, and the ones we don't know about that are in this country, you know, quote unquote sleeper cells. So again, I urge everyone listening, prepare your family for the 7 days with, you know, food, water, supplies. I don't care what it looks like. If it's canned soups or, you know, or whatever it is, MREs, you know, just have some sort of food, right? Um, and, you know, something to back up your power, and communications, and, you know, of course, you know, we live in a free society where we can own firearms, you know, and I know that a lot of the guys on the show here are big advocates of it. So, you know, I'm just, uh, I'm kind of like in the middle of all the preps. I'm not just focused on the firearms, but I think that that's a key element. Every American family should own an AR-15 for, you know, hoping that day never comes to not only to our country, but to our neighborhoods, like may happen now with this mess in Iran.
Yeah, I
Let
mean,
me
instead of opening up those Trump savings accounts for the kids, he could have bought ARs for everybody.
let me throw a hyperbolic grenade, a hypothetical grenade into this conversation. And you brought this up, Angel, and this has been a debate in the gun community. Yes, these people, they come over here, if they become citizens or however the case, they have, or even buying it back ways, they have the right to access firearms. And there's a bunch, I think, and I wish Trad was here, because Trad and I actually had a very spirited discussion. Trad says he's not he's not a 2A absolutist. And I've caught flack from people when we show like the tranny videos and stuff like that, and I say, yeah, you can complain or you can train harder. You know, that's just the idea. And there's a growing sense, especially in the Catholic community as well, that, you know, we should be restricting access to firearms to people who are transgender, to people who are, you know, foreigners and all these other kinds of things. And to me, that's just a bad idea, because you're giving the government the ability to restrict. And for me, it's not because I want them to have firearms. It's me worrying about the government turning around and saying, oh, Rick, you're an extreme Catholic, you can't have them either. So that's why you can call me an absolutist. It's really the idea of, you're fast, but I'm faster. And I'm going to count on myself to do it. And I don't want the government stepping in and telling me what I can and cannot own, because that's how I see it going. I don't know what your thoughts, gentlemen, are on that debate that you brought up, Angel, about the idea. Well, yeah, they should be able to access and have the ability to access firearms. I say it's unfortunate, but it's part, you know, Benjamin Franklin. You know, safety or security, you can't have both, right? Which one are you going to do? I'm like, all right, I'll rather be free and take my chances than count on the government to restrict or whatever the case may be.
You can take it off, Joey. Go ahead.
I guess I'll jump on the sword first.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, I see both sides of it. I really do, because there is a part of me that doesn't want them to have these other groups that are out there, you know, alphabet groups out there that I don't want to have these access to them, because they're on certain medications, you know, and maybe that's a route they could go down. Like if you're taking these sorts of medications, you can't own a firearm, and they do it with cannabis, you know. maybe extend it out to that. You're doing hormone things that are affecting your ability to think and how your mood is going to be perceived. Maybe go down that route, but at the same time, like Rick has said, I don't want to. That's the caveat. That's the big caveat. Is once you start labeling these groups a certain way, what's to stop them from coming after us? And but at the same time, I'm like, there has to be a red line in the sand somewhere, because eventually that line's going to get crossed, and it's going to get bad here in the country. I mean, because eventually you're going to, if you come to try to come take my guns, that's a hill I'm willing to die on. And that's just what it is. I hate that it has to be that way, but if you come for them, that's a hill I'm willing to die on. And I'd hate for it to ever come to that. But I kind of see both sides of it. I hate doing that but I guess I kind of tend a little bit more towards restricting access to firearms to certain people, to certain groups. I do lean that way a little bit because, again, they are unstable people. They're extremely unstable people, and they're unstable people because of the chemicals and the stuff that they're putting in their bodies. And it controls their cognitive abilities to make rational decisions. And so I do kind of tend to be with a little bit with on Trad, I guess, on that side of it. So yeah, that's an interesting debate to have.
Yeah, I mean, I believe in autonomy from the government as a prepper, and as a Catholic, subsidiarity, with the Catholic land movement and philosophies like that. I think we should be able to operate, within our belief system and support our country, right? Not have the country have to support us in our belief system, right? Um, kind of, let's live in peace, right? With the law, let's be law-abiding citizens, right? Let's support our government, but don't come in like the old saying and infringe, right? Don't, tell me I can't go to church because of COVID. Don't tell me that, I can only own, 10 rounds in my magazine. Don't tell me all these things, right? Let's just live in peace. I mean, I see the concern by the government. They want to protect the people, right? Not everyone's as prepared as we are.
Theoretically,
Theoretically,
Theoretically, yeah.
I thought you said it because I was thinking it.
Yeah, they want to.
Let me be that guy. Theoretically, let's say.
Well, they want to protect the people, and there's a non-governmental organization called the Southern Poverty Law Center. So I don't know if you guys are, I don't know what side of the aisle they're on, or if they're neutral, but
They're
I have
left.
to look.
Very left.
They're very
So
left.
they track. I have it up right here. They track 1,400 hate groups, quote unquote, in the
And how
United
many? And you
States.
can look at how many Catholics are labeled on there. I have
I have not. I haven't looked into detail, but
I have a
apparently,
buddy of mine that I used to work with when I worked at the Crusade Channel. His name is Brother Andre Marie, from the Slaves of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, and he is labeled on the ADL as a hate group.
So apparently that's not a good source, but there's a lot of extremist groups in the U.S. and they're allowed to own firearms like all of us. And like you were saying, Rick, I guess I'll play devil's advocate here between Joey and Rick. You know, we restrict it to one group, the way the government sees it, and lobbying parties, you have to restrict it to all, right? Even though the states dictate what happens. Um, I believe in more of an open, open constitutional kind of amendment for firearms. I mean, that's not my only focus. You gentlemen know that, but I believe that we should go back in time. I mean, I should be able to build my own, and I should be able to do what I want. But you know, um, we go back to the whole ghost gun thing. Oh, make these 3D printed receivers illegal and all this. It's like, well, I mean, who has a technical knowledge to build one? And I mean, your average guy might be able to do it with a YouTube video, but it may blow up in his face. So, the reality is there's limited people that can actually do all these things, right? It takes a like mind and someone with the technical knowledge and training, and you know, I don't know. It's the whole thing is don't restrict us, right? And you know, all these extremist groups that are here, um, we're just gonna have to figure a way to keep them in check. Extremists meaning the ones that want to damage us, right? And want to perform the kinds of attacks that we're waiting for. Not those attacks that the ABC reported today. They're saying that they're gonna fly drones into California and blow up California now. But
See, the idea behind the restriction only works if you have a Catholic monarch, or if you have a government that is ordered the right way. I'm not trying to shout him out. I actually had a discussion like this with Guns and Rosaries, back and forth. It was very spirited, and I respect his opinion on that. But and I'm saying, and my whole point is, yes, if we had King Saint Louis the Ninth, yeah, let's restrict, because the order and his mindset from that will be the correct one. But the people in DC are not correct, and their order is not correct, and I don't want to subject to them. So if you're a you want to give everybody a chance. No, I just want to make sure I have the chance. I want to make sure I had the chance to do it, and I don't want to be pushed down or restricted because of it. And so that's my big thing is I don't. Yeah, because if you do it under Trump, whenever a Democrat comes in, it's going to be swung the other way to whoever their political adversaries are. And it's just, as long as the government that we have, and as Father Ripmaker said in his fantastic interview, which I recommend everybody watch that. I only watched 2 hours of it and I was blown away. We get the leaders we deserve, right? We're getting the leaders we deserve. And the picture of him holding his cig is probably the greatest picture of 2026, by the way. This idea that we don't have rightly ordered leaders. And we don't have correctly ordered leaders. So I don't count on them to do the right thing. The right thing in a correctly ordered society is what Joey's saying. Hey, if you're doing this stuff and you're on these medications, you're clearly not in the right frame of mind to do that. But we're in a society that is encouraging that behavior, that is promoting that behavior. So that's just it's just a no-go for me. And I know that puts me on the wrong side with a bunch of guys, and I don't mind the discussion. Like you guys, it's a good discussion to have. But I'd rather take my chances on my own than worry about than rely on a government that right now at its core doesn't like me. That doesn't really like who I am. So that would put I don't know how many lists I'm on
and for me, really, I disregard all gun laws anyways. I'm going to carry no matter what. So they can take their gun laws and their 30-06 signs, and they can stick them somewhere. I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to conform.
Yeah, and I mean, when you have those laws in place, which is how we call this a transition. Even when you have those laws in place and you have those things in place that are supposed to protect you, a place like New York City, you have these types of incidents take place, right? You have 2 men charged with terror offenses after a homemade bomb, which was a pressure bomb filled with, very similar to the Boston bombing, which is coming up in April, the anniversary of that. It was thrown outside the mayor's home. This dude threw a nail bomb essentially at police officers in broad daylight in front of them, where he was going to get captured. He didn't care if he was going to get captured.
No,
And
Rick.
so,
Rick, I
yeah,
think it was Nick Sorter. You know the guy on X?
yeah,
The
I
guy
know.
that
Yep.
that guy's like, I mean, he's cool. I'm not bashing him, but that guy's crazy, the stuff he does. He antagonizes. And
Mm.
I think he was there. They threw it at him, I think.
He was covering the protest outside of the mayor's house,
Yeah.
so he might
Yep,
have been
yep.
in the facility.
He
But
was
even
in the
still,
thick
I'm
of
not a
it.
fan of Nick Sorter, but he shouldn't have a nail bomb thrown at him.
Yep, they said it bounced off his chest or something crazy. They threw like I don't know what happened, but it's crazy. Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, these 2 attempted to detonate 2 explosives outside the mayor's office with a 3rd bomb in their car. And this is stuff that, if you know anything about, I'm sure both of you know from your time in the military, IEDs and these improvised explosive weapons, how easy they are to make. You can outlaw fertilizer and all these other things, but it's hard to outlaw a pressure cooker and nails that you can buy at your local hardware store. And that's the type of people that we will be dealing with if this continues to escalate. And New York is supposed to be super safe because every gun in existence, you can't have it, and all of these other things. And New York brags about, or they used to brag before their mayors went downhill, their budget for terrorism rivaled most small countries. And yet this still took place there. So it's this idea that, well, we should let the government, restrict and do all these other things. Let's say you do restrict certain groups. That doesn't mean the threat is over. Right? I'm going to kind of dovetail it back into my original point. Right? If it's about, they could use a car, they could use nail bomb. There's if they have the intention to harm, they'll figure out a way to do it. Just banning guns isn't enough. So until we're in a safer society from that, it's up to you to be ready for it. And that's my big argument there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's people, I guess, unless you were really unless you followed the Iraq war really close or the Afghanistan war really close, you don't have an appreciation for just how unsophisticated these weapons are. Like they are so easy to make. It's incredibly. You can go online and find instructions on how to make one of these things in probably less than 5 minutes. You can have the instructions on how to create these devices. I'm actually sorry about that. A child abduction thing pop up on my phone. I'm actually just really surprised that we haven't seen more of these yet, but that could change here in the coming days and weeks, months and years, as this whole Iran thing plays out. But unless you really, follow the Iraq and Afghanistan war, the carnage that it caused, it was a real psychological, it played a really big psychological role. It took a toll on our soldiers because they knew every time they left the wire and went out into the city, they could be targeted. IEDs that were just so easy to construct and build, and it's a morale. It will just absolutely crush your morale. And if that starts happening here in the United States, I mean, it's gonna be a fever pitch of what it's gonna do to people. It's gonna drive some people nuts. Literally.
I mean, yeah. Sorry, Angel, your thoughts?
No, I mean, I'm, the same thing. I mean, we need to prepare for any of these scenarios. No one's coming for you, and when they do come, it's going to be too late. And I don't want to instill fear. If I tell you what's really on my mind, I will instill fear. So I'm not. But I can tell you that, I trained at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and that's where my schoolhouse was. And, we learned everything from unconventional warfare to, everything you can, imagine. I can tell you, uh, and anyone can do it. We need to remain prepared. I mean, how many times in Florida here have we walked into and I'm not saying I have, I'm just saying there could be people I know that have done it, have walked into a certain grocery store that says no firearms on it. And then they laugh at the sign because it's like, well, I'll see you in court if something were to happen, So, it's, concealed carrying might be a hassle, but, when you're the person, look, how many times have you been at Walmart or somewhere in public, someone's collapsed, right, with chest pains, and everybody's just flipping out. They don't know what to do. I've seen that so many times in Walmart and in stores. I've seen it. And, I was actually in Walmart once. I walked up to triage this person, and this lady started screaming at me, saying to back off. I was going to kill her because I'm not a medic or something. And I'm like, you don't know that. You don't know what I know or don't know. No.
Mm-hmm.
And I just set the person up and they stood right up. They just got lightheaded. That's all.
Yeah.
Lady was telling her to lay down. I'm like, no, sit her up, get that blood flowing, or elevate the feet or do something, and I mean, but that's what we're dealing with in our society. A complacent, weak society that does not want you to be the first responder.
And
Yeah,
it's really
that
real
happened
quick.
to me too. That's I'll throw in another quick story too. Same thing happened to me. Happened to go to a Sam's Club. We had a pool party, mom and dad's house. They're like, "Hey, we went to Sam's Club real quick." We were there, and then all of a sudden, from across the store, I hear, "Oh my goodness, he's choking!" And I ran. I took off. I just had its instinct. I took off running. I got up to the food court, and there was like a 70-something, 80-something-year-old man that was choking on a hot dog. And the lady behind him trying to help him was literally just on his back like this. And she was like in a state of shock. And I was like, ma'am, we need to do the Heimlich. I need you to step out of the way. But she was in so much shock, she didn't know what to do. And I literally had to get this lady and move her over and then get in. And I had to Heimlich this guy. I mean, at least 10 or 15 times. The guy turned blue and his son reached into his mouth. I was like, don't do that. And because they'll bite down.
Yep.
But he pulled his dentures out and the hot dog came out. But everybody there was like 20 people sitting there watching it, and just this one lady just tapping him on the back because nobody took action. Nobody knew what to do. Everybody was panicking. So by the time the paramedics got there, like I was out. As soon as I saw the paramedics walking up, I was out the door. I'm out of here.
Yeah, I didn't do nothing. But that's something I'm sure you're both aware of it. Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Cooper's color awareness chart, from white to black. White is completely unaware. Yellow is alert. Orange, yellow is normal, just kind of being aware of things. Orange is alert. Red is take action, and black is complete loss of function, shock, essentially. Too many people operate in the white. Too many people operate in the white. And I tell you, because we talk about it in the LTC class, they operate in the white and they go straight to black. Because if you're not aware, like you're saying with the hot dog, if you're operating the way, oh, honey, look, we're saving $5 on the TV at Costco. And then the next thing you know, you look over and your husband is turning blue. You're just going to go right into black and not have any idea of how to react. Because who would be like, well, I have to be on alert in case this guy chokes on a hot dog. But it's not that. It's just noticing signs like, oh, you're having trouble breathing. What's going on? Is there something happening here? Most people don't train themselves because we've lived in this a society that's told you don't have to operate in the yellow. You can be completely unaware of everything because somebody else will come and take care of the situation. Some first responder, somebody else, Joey will come over. Somebody will come over and fix it for you. And so what we try to tell is try to live your life in the yellow. If you live your life in the yellow, you'll maybe go to orange, but that's where you want to go. Yellow to orange. Yellow, you're aware, you're noticing things. Orange, something's caught my eye, and then you can react to it. But this idea that, when I say most people operate in the white, it's just, whether they're driving, talking on the phone, they're at work, at home, it doesn't matter. They're kind of living in the white, eating food at a restaurant or at a bar. And, when something happens, most people have never even mentally gone through the scenario. So they go straight to that black, which is panic, stress. Their memory blacks out. They just can't, they're not even people anymore until the situation resolves itself. You got to be careful of that. Yeah, you have to live your life, and it's especially men. You have to live your state a state of awareness and preparedness in that regard. That's really it. So you can't do any of these other kinds of things. And if you need to ignore, if you feel like you need to ignore laws, I'm not recommending it or not, but you got to do what you got to do. That's right for yourself, right? You got to do what you feel what you're good with, and that means taking any level of preps that you need to. So it's these, and as these shows go on, folks, there are going to be more stories like this, and we're going to point it out again and again that you're going to have to be ready for this. Let's say, and I'm going to throw this to Angel. Let's say these guys were able to, we're talking alternate scenario YouTube, so don't dump my stream like you already have. Let's say this attack was successful at the mayor's house, God forbid. Guess what? The city goes on lockdown. City goes on lockdown immediately. And now, Angel, you're stuck in your home for how long? We don't know. Do you have enough food? Do you have enough water? Do you have enough supplies to take care of you and your family? In Boston, they did that. They shut down the entire city because they couldn't find the guy. So people were locked in their homes. And there could be a situation with one of these types of attacks that cripples a city. And then all of a sudden, Angel, people are locked in their homes and they have not prepared ahead of time. So they, when Angel says you need to have enough food, you have to have enough water. He's not repeating that for, because he likes, well, maybe he does like to repeat it, but it's the idea that this, when you're not able to leave your house, whatever's in the closet, that's it. You have to ration it. You got to make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can look back at COVID when we had lockdowns and, they were telling us how to walk through the grocery store, and all these silly things. But with the increase, when these terror cells start coming up and they down certain sectors of internet, cell phone, utilities, power, water, when this stuff starts happening, panic's going to set in, martial law is going to set in, they're going to start giving curfews, and this may not be nationwide, but it may be sporadic in big cities like New York, Chicago, the big ones that always go through all these problems and riots. It's just one of those things that it's expected, right? We're going to be on lockdown. The who knows? Maybe the supply chain will be disrupted. Where you go to the grocery store once a week because that's how the government's going to let you go while we're on lockdown because of these terror attacks or threats, and it's chaos when you're there that one time a week. There's going to be no food, and then so yeah, prepare 7 to 30 days. What I say, whatever you can afford. If you can afford to go on Amazon or a military surplus store, MREs are nasty. I don't recommend it. But, if you want to store something 5 to 10 years in a temperature controlled, air conditioned house, buy a couple boxes of MREs, buy some 5-gallon water jugs, fill them up, put them out of direct sunlight, stash them away in a closet. If you're a suburban or urban family, if you live in the country, I'm sure you got plenty of options of where to put it. But that's not the most sustainable means, but at least if something were to happen, you have something to eat, you have something to drink, and hopefully you have something to defend yourself with, and I mean, that shortwave radio that I always talk about, multi-band is also very important because the Liberty Radio of the U.S. government will be running when FM radio goes down. But go ahead, I'll throw it to you guys.
What do you think about talking about water? What do you think about those plastic liners people can buy for their tubs? Do you trust those? Because you don't want to fill your tub up because your tub is, it's kind of like those Instagram videos where people like cooking their sink, and I'm like, well, because of all the stuff that's in there. Like, would you think that's okay?
No, here in Florida, we fill our tubs when there's a hurricane coming, and we used to use that water to flush the toilet. Because they might, there might be disruptions and, with the storm surge coming into coastal towns with the water supply. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to drink water, I mean, your best bet is BPA free containers, and they have those big 55-gallon drums that you can buy, and you can even get the siphons for it. I mean, the ultimate form, I mean, I have 55-gallon drums. I don't have the IBCs, but that's my next on my list. The IBCs, international bulk containers, are up to 300 gallons, 230, 300. And a standard water hose connects to the bottom. You can get one of those and collect rainwater or fill it up with water and just sit on it. I mean, 1 gallon of water per person per day is what they say. That's all you need to drink and hygiene. So, that's the prepping standard. The more water, the better. And, that's just order something. Even if you have, for one person, if you have 2 5-gallon water jugs and 2 boxes of or 1 box of MREs, that's a week's worth of food already. I mean, you'll be down to eating 1 MRE per day, but that's 3,000 calories. You'll live.
Yeah. At that point, it's not about comfort; it's about survival.
Exactly. Yeah, and you can go a while without eating, especially if you're kind of a little tubby, like like myself. We can go a little bit without eating. You can ration out for a pretty long time. You can really stretch it out. And it's built into our faith, right? We should be fasting right now, anyways. This is great time to learn how to fast.
Oh, I've got at least like 2 months worth of food right here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And remember, and
people say, "Why don't you get in shape?" I say, "No, I'm prepping. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. I'm prepping for the times when I have to fast."
Sorry,
Got the
Majorian.
tank.
I'm working on my fitness, bud. But I'm way behind you guys, and I'm
And
older than you.
I'm sure you guys will agree with this, but MREs were designed, if you get the authentic military ones online, for a combat scenario to sustain a soldier in a high stress environment, high calorie environment, for short term. And that's so I advocate for MREs first. If you have the space for them, you don't have to cook anything, you don't have to do anything, you just eat them.
Yeah.
If you don't like that, if you like more organic foods and not any preservatives and all that, plenty of canned foods that you can buy, non-perishables. I mean, after that, you can go to all those freeze-dried foods where you're gonna have to pour water in and boil them. Mountain House, Patriot Supply, all that. That requires cooking and some sort of maybe you have to stock up on propane. Um, if you the what we do have here is we have Blackstone grills on the property here, which take propane, and we have a generator that runs on propane. So
Yeah.
we have a lot of propane here, and it's easier to store than gasoline. But that's us. Not everyone can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, if none of that works, guys, protein bars, boxes and boxes of protein bars. If you can't afford them, you can, because they come in like packs of 6, and those are 20 grams of protein, calories, stuff like that. They'll fill you up, and that's the big thing. They'll fill you up, and that's what you want to be in that regard. There's plenty of options. You can always reach out to Angel on multiple. On X and other ways if you're looking for stuff like that. And you're actually doing a presentation somewhere pretty soon, aren't you? You're going to
That
be a
got
speaker.
Yeah, unfortunately, that got canceled.
Oh, never
Um,
mind.
yeah, for reasons I'm not going to comment on, but unfortunately,
A
we
lot
had
of Catholic people getting canceled lately. This is crazy. I don't like that. But anyway,
yeah,
that's a different story for a different day.
it was a Catalan movement conference in Florida, and I was going to give a workshop on prepping, bring all the goodies in a big old pickup truck, but it got canceled.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Man, sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah. Anyway, to not make it less awkward, but it's everybody's favorite time of the week. It's time for Joey's savings and picks. So, which one would you like to start with?
My favorite time of the show.
That's right.
Yeah, we're going all firearm today, guys. So we'll start out with the comp first. So you had the 30 caliber comp. It's threaded 5/8 by 24. Guys, if you're getting into buying suppressors and stuff, make sure you pay attention to the thread size. And then there's also standard, thread on. You have left-handed thread ons, so you need to make sure you know what you're buying with those. So that's it's a 30 caliber comp, so it'll take all your 30 cals all the way up to 308. That's on sale right now for $299. That's a great price for a suppressor. If you go to Shields or one of these big box stores that has them, one of these gun shops, I mean, you're looking well north of that for a lot of the different ones that are out there. This is a good, inexpensive way where you can get a suppressor and, take the pressure off your ears, and save your hearing a little bit, which you should be wearing hearing protection anyways. But, that just goes to say you can save some money by getting into the suppressor game with this compensator. The next one, I know my prepping counterpart's going to love this one because that's why I retweeted it the other day. Springfield M1A All-American Classic. That is a phenomenal rifle. I mean, they are absolute tanks. You got a 308 round, which you can buy those in bulk, like to no end. You can have 308 up to your ears. This is on sale for $14.99. Great deal. It's got that. It has that camo look to it, which is kind of cool. You can pair it with that 308 if you get the threaded barrel on there. Get your barrel threaded. But again, the 308 is a great gun. This one doesn't have the super long barrel, so it's good for maneuvering. You're out in the woods and stuff. You can carry it, maneuver with it well. And like I said, 308 round, you can reach out and really touch somebody with it. But at the same time, it's short enough to where if you get into some sort of CQB or you run up on a pack of hogs in the middle of the woods, you're gonna be able to maneuver that rifle and get shots on target, really quick. And they have great sights on those too. They're adjustable sights, so you can make adjustments for your windage and your elevation or your distance as well. So
I'll take that over an AR any day for a bush gun to be in the
it is on my list.
all day.
It is
I'll take
on
that all
my
day.
list. I'm trying to break it down between a couple of the different, like the SOCOM one is really cool. I really like the look of that one. This one's, I really like this one. This one's a really nice one.
Yep. Yeah.
And then the
I
last one is the PSA. Got to go with the good old PSA. Hopefully one day we'll get a sponsorship from those guys.
Just a promo
We
code,
give those guys
anything.
a lot of love, man. But they got a 7.5 inch 300 blackout upper. I'm not a 300 blackout guy, but I don't want to discriminate. You know, the good thing with the 300 blackout, this is what a lot of the guys say about the 300 blackout, is if let's say you have this is 7.5 inch barrel on this, so this would be a great weapon for inside your home. If you're running it subsonic and also suppressed, you're not going to have to worry about like over penetration of soft targets. You know, so if you're shooting, you have to engage somebody that's in your home and is threatening your life, and you have to take action against that. You're not going to worry about it going like a 5.56. You know, you accidentally load your green tips in there, and you're going to have angry neighbors. You know, 2 houses away. You know, but this is a great little gun that you can piece it together. You can buy the upper like this for $189.99. Great deal to get into a nice, small, compact weapon, something you could throw in the back of your truck, underneath the back of back seat of your truck, and just have something to run with. Or just have it next to your nightstand, or have it in a secure location. Somebody breaks into your house, you have something to work with. Great 7.5 inch barrel right there. I mean, you can get around corners really nice with that thing.
Yep. Yeah.
And all you got to do with that is probably a nitride barrel, right? So all you got to do on that is you throw a good Springco, what is it? A bolt carrier group with the upgraded springs on that. And it's that bolt carrier group is as good as a Daniel Defense, as long as it's forged and it has the Springco springs. So, I mean,
Agreed.
It'll cycle great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. And then I'm going to show it off a little bit here, guys, given the subject matter we had tonight. Good backpack gun. This is my newest addition to my
practicing what
that's literally my diaper bag. That is my diaper bag that I have for my it's made by Tactical Baby Gear, so I got that. But I got the fold up down to 16 inches, 10 millimeter, and got me a nice little vortex optic on there, angled foregrip on there. But it's chambered in 10 millimeter, folds down to 16 inches, carries 2 mags here, 1 mag there. You just deploy it by pulling this bolt, the charging handle back up.
Is that the Kel-Tec?
No, that's not the Kel-Tec, buddy.
No, this is a Smith & Wesson, baby.
Oh, okay. Fancy.
So what I didn't like, since we're going to talk a little bit about guns before we get out of here, is the so my review on, because I was between 3 different ones. Rick likes the Ruger. I love the Ruger. I actually got to hold it. It's a great, good looking gun. What I didn't like about it is that when it folds at the stock. So folded, you're looking at 21.8 inches, I believe is what it was, or something like, maybe it's 23.8 inches. And when I took my bag to the store I bought it at, it just didn't quite, it was going to protrude upwards. And I didn't want that. I wanted something that it looks like it is my diaper bag, but it goes into the back compartment of the diaper bag. And I wanted something that was very concealable, high capacity, and could be deployed really quick. And this one, when you fold it, it's just a little touch over 16 inches. The big sellers, the other thing is the Kel-Tec. The Kel-Tec Sub 2000, great little gun. I am a trigger snob. Me and Rick talked about this before the show. I am a trigger snob. I do not like mushy triggers. If you're trying to sell me a gun that has a mushy trigger, I'm just not going to buy it. This one has a really nice, it comes right up to the wall. It does require a little bit more force, actually a lot more force than my Mechanic. Mechanic has a very nice trigger on it, but it's not like you don't have to really push back. I mean, it does require a nice deliberate pull on it. Accuracy is great. I actually put a Caw Valley linear compensator on there. It just came in yesterday. Got it mounted up, and I got to take it out to the range and go shoot it again. But it actually is going to direct the sound and the gases toward the target. But again, I got three 15-round magazines, 10 millimeter. I'm actually running the Spear Gold Dots through those. So, good luck to anything that's on the other side of that, hog or, a terrorist, But
my
but
joke
again,
was that now Joey has to get an M&P pistol in 10 mil just to complete the set.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I love the trigger on it. I really do, and so I am definitely open to some M&P style pistols, like legit pistols. So, but yeah, again, this is just something right here. If you guys, if you have your pastor's permission to be on a safety team, this is something you can put in the bag. You're standing in the corner, you got it there. Quick deployable. I mean, obviously, I have a sidearm, but that's a nice little backup. Again, if they come for you and you're in a large area, guess what? That may not be enough. So why not have something that's deployable and it's effective? That's why I chose a 10 millimeter over the 9. They also got that chambered in 40 and 5.7, the good old 5.7, which will give your body armor some issues. If you're wearing soft body armor, that 5.7 is screaming downrange, so it can create issues if somebody were to have some sort of armor on. But anyways, but again, I'm a very big advocate for protect your parish. It was angered me to no end to see the one woman outside the Mexican. Did you see the one lady that was outside on the steps of the parish there in Mexico? She's got like this broom dustpan combination. Yeah, and she's like holding off like 15 feminists. I'm like, where are the men? Right. Where are the men? Guys, where are you guys at, man? Stop being limp wristers. Stop being wusses. Get involved with your parish. Priests, if you're out there, demand that the men, take turns, so it's not the same guys every single Sunday. Like a bunch of parishes I know, it's the same guys every single Sunday because I got 3 or 4 kids, dude. I got 4 kids under the age of 10. And guess what? I'm on duty almost every single Sunday. Take control of your household. You don't have to be mean about it, but there's an order to a household. The man, you are the high priest of your home. I'm going to keep saying it over and over again. I'm going to be like Rick with his the police aren't coming to save you. They're not obligated to save you. I'm going to keep saying it again. Stop being gay, man. Grow a pair of balls. Get your house in order, starting with your own. Get your spiritual life in order. Obviously, make sure that what you're asking of your wife is spiritually the right thing to do. But get involved in your parish, protect your parish, because if you don't, you're just going to continue to make our parishes targets, which puts everybody at risk. So stop being gay. Go out there, listen to Majorian. He'll give you a workout plan to go by. I love those guys. I know the Zoomers. I get you, man. So the things that you're frustrated about, I am also frustrated about. And it irks me to no end that we don't have more Catholic men that aren't more involved. I've noticed, and this goes for trad. I'm in a trad community. I go to a TLM, but there's a lot of soft men in the TLM community. I'm going to say it. I'm not afraid to say it. People from my parish watch this. I don't care. There's a lot of soft men, and there's a lot of households where the women call the shots. I'm just saying it like it is. Stop being dumb. Be a man. Grow a pair. Protect your parish, get your house in order, start prepping, buy some guns, listen to the advice that we're giving to you guys, and do something so you can be better citizens and better Catholic men. And I'll end my rant with that.
Amen, brother. Yeah, you're 100% on. It's.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else to say. I think we're gonna leave off. That's a good a place as any to leave off on this show. So, I mean,
all I can tell you is when I walk into the parishes, the churches that I frequent, they don't want any word about anyone preparing for anything. Just to let you know, they they don't need that there. They got it under control, they say, and I just shrug my shoulders.
Yeah. Well, that's good for you, but I'll still keep mine. Right. That's
so I feel like I'm always on guard duty, even though I'm not officially on guard duty. I'm like, well, I'm watching all y'all. Some maniac walks through that door. What are you gonna tell me? I mean, let them shoot us.
Yeah,
exactly. Yep.
All right, gentlemen.
1,000 more men like you, man.
Exactly. And that's what we're hoping with this show. We appreciate you hanging out with us, folks, on the council, whether live or in the replay. Please do us a favor, like, subscribe, share the video out so more people can take a look at it. We will see you all soon. Thanks for hanging out with us. God bless. Hope your Lent's going well. Continue to pray and push through, my fellow Catholics. God bless, and Viva Cristo Rey.
Viva Cristo Rey.
Today.